Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money, pretty much everything under the sun that relates to you having a healthier relationship with money. My name is Steve Sexton. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for sharing with your friends and family members. You know what, where our show keeps growing, we're very thankful. Our UK affiliate, UK Health Radio, has been expanding our network. We have over 60,000 listeners on that network, and that's going all over the world. So we're very thankful for that. If you have topics or things that you'd like to discuss on Saving with Steve, please go to viewers at savingwithsteve.com. I'm sorry, viewers at savingwithsteve.us. That's viewers at savingwithsteve.us. And send us a little email and say, hey, look, could you talk about this today or that today? You know what? Last week we had Brad Galbraith. He's the CEO of changemydomicile.com. He's an attorney. Our listeners got to hear about how, if you're moving from a high tax state to a low tax state, how to properly change your domicile so your high tax state doesn't continue to tax you. Or if you're living in two states, what a big amount of information that was, and very helpful to our listeners. And this week, you know what? Real estate's taken a wild ride over the last couple of years now, hasn't it? We also have rate increase. What effects that's going to happen? You know what? We're really lucky. We have Polina Ryshakow. She's the Chief Valuation Officer for Sundae.com. Sundae.com is making it easier for investors to buy properties and create competition to drive up prices. So if you think about it, if you're one of those people that are considering to sell your house as is to the largest network of investors to ensure that the home gets the highest price offer, they're your people. You know what? It's got a great thing. And today, you know what? I'm going to talk about how to create a budget and stick to it. So let's just get into how to create that budget and stick to it first. You know what? The first thing you want to do is start looking at, you know what, a budget. You know what? Budgets aren't easy. Okay. You know what? If you have a bad month, you get discouraged, you give up. It's almost like a weight loss program, or you think you can keep your budget in your head, but that's not good enough. It might be, it might not be, but for most people, that's not the case. The truth is a budget helps you reach your goals. It's an incredibly valuable tool that anybody can master. It just takes a little bit of learning. It's not that hard. The first thing you want to do is do this: budget to zero. Now, what does budgeting to zero really mean? You know what? So what budgeting to zero really means is you don't spend all your money down. What you do is you give your money a job. And that job of your money, every time you get a paycheck, is to go somewhere. It could be going to groceries. It could be going to a mortgage. It could be going to your savings account, your retirement account, to paying off debt. Okay. The idea is put yourself in a position where you know where every cent that you have is going every single month, so you can systematically save for that emergency fund, that retirement, that house, that vacation, the whole shot, while continuing to pay all your bills. Next, you know what? Consider looking at keeping lower credit limits. Why? Typically, people with higher credit limits continue to spend. They think it's okay. And the next thing you know, they've got a whole bunch of debt bills. Not a good situation to help you stay in budget. Never spend more than you have. There's many people that go on wonderful cruises and trips, yet they're eating top ramen for the next 4 minutes. And that's not a healthy, happy lifestyle. Okay. One of the big things we see is people, you know what, you make those big purchases and you're like, yeah, it's a really beautiful TV or this or that. And then you realize, you know what, I'm still in debt. Okay. Before you make the big purchases, take a day, sleep on it. If it's still top of mind and you still really need it, hey, yeah, go back and buy it. But if you find out it's not that important, not top of mind, maybe you didn't really need it after all. Hey, best part about that is you save the money. Next, one of the things with budgeting is get rid of those fees. You know what, whether it be a checking or savings account, if there's fees, find a way to get rid of them. Talk to the bank. If you're paying fees for streaming services, which ones are you actually using? Do you have all 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 of them? Hey, get it down to the ones you need. Hey, if it's a cable bill, find a way to get rid of the cable portion that you're not paying or not using and stop paying for it. Hey, we move off just to having internet and a few streaming services, and it saved us over $100 a month. Helps us stick with this, but especially during this inflationary time. Next, plan your meals. A lot of people don't plan their meals, which means they end up eating out, buying something on the way home. They're paying $10, $12, $15, $20 a meal, at $60 to $100 a day. Hey, that's a lot of money. So you're looking at $300 to $500 or more per week, $1,000 a month, when if you plan the meal, you can start planning what lunch you're going to bring. Buy the items from the store. When we talk about buying the items from the store, consider buying generic as opposed to name brand. Why? Because generic's 8 to 9% cheaper than a name brand. That same thing goes when you're buying a packaged salad. Yeah, it's all packaged there, but you know what? You can buy the dressing, the nuts, the cheese, and the salad for 4 or 5 days worth or 10 days worth of buying it in the bag, which means you can get a whole month or 3 weeks for free if you're just paying, it really saves you a lot of money. Next, you know what? Shopping for groceries. Have a list. Look in your pantry. Make sure you don't buy things 2 or 3 times over. That way you can stick within your budget. Next, you know what? When it comes to online shopping, the important thing is to stay away from shopping when you're really hungry, because you always add extra things in there. So when you go into online shopping, make sure you have your list, find exactly what you need, buy it, and go pick it up, providing it's cheaper or at least as expensive as what you're spending if you went to the store yourself. You know what? One of the big things that I tell people is these 2 things. 1, spend cash. Don't use a debit card or credit card. Why? Every time you pull that money out of your pocket, your mind goes, hey, I'm going to spend $100. Why am I spending that $100? Okay. And a lot of times it gets you to think twice about that purchase. Next, think about this. Connect your spending to your work. So if you're buying a new pair of shoes, it's $100. Well, if you make $30 an hour or $60,000 a year, hey, it's going to take you 3 hours and a little bit to pay for those shoes. If you have a $500 or $300 car payment, it's going to take you 10 hours or a day and a couple hours to actually pay for your car payment each and every month. So think about that when you're buying things and equate it to it. You might find out, the things aren't as worth it as you thought, and it better enables you to stick with a budget. Now, hey, you know what? We have a great show for you. We have Polina Ryshakow. She's here with Sundae. She'll be with us just in a few minutes, so stick with us. We're going to be right back. Okay, Cameron, just so you know, I'm introducing Polina Ryshakow.
Yes.
Ryshakow. And we want to make sure wherever I have Chief Valuation Officer, we want to put Senior Director of Economic Research, Lead Economist for Sundae.com. Okay, so here we go. And 3, 2. With that, I'd like to introduce you all to Polina Ryshakow. She is the Senior Director of Economic Research and Lead Economist for Sundae.com. Sundae.com, they do a wonderful job. They're the only marketplace that connects homeowners looking to sell their home as is to the largest network of investors to ensure homeowners get their highest possible offer. But you know what? Polina's not really here just to talk about that. She's here to talk about, hey, what happened in 2021 with the real estate market, what we're looking at 2022, what are this rate increases, the rate increases, what about the geopolitical stuff that's going on? Got a lot to unwrap today. So with that, Polina, thank you for being here.
Sure, it's great to be here. Thank you, Steve, for having me.
I'm really glad you're back, because I was actually looking forward to this, and many of our listeners are as well, because they were like, hey, what about real estate? So let's start. Let's talk about 2021. I don't think it doesn't matter who you are. 2021 was probably a nice year in real estate, but could you give people the understanding of what's going on, what caused that? And then let's, talk about 2022 after that.
Of course. So 2021 was a crazy year for real estate appreciation, right? What happened was we had very low interest rates. So when you think about real estate and you think about what you can afford, it's really about the monthly payments, how much you can pay per month for shelter. And when you have low interest rates, you have low monthly payments. So all of a sudden, since the interest rates were low, a lot of people could afford a higher priced home. Also, we had stock market that was doing exceptionally well. So a lot of people had more money for down payment. You also had signs of the generational wealth transfer happening, where baby boomers were helping their kids with down payment. One of the interesting trends we've seen, and I believe it was realtor.com that published data on the crypto or Bitcoin being a bigger portion of the down payment for the millennials.
Mhm.
A lot of people were thinking, this is my chance to get into the real estate market. So what happened is the pandemic and the fact that we had historically low interest rates, it pulled some of that demand forward. So you had this window of opportunity to jump in, to lock in the low monthly payments on real estate. So a lot of people showed up. We had crazy bidding wars. As a result, you've seen appreciation of almost 20% on the national level. And some markets appreciated more, some markets appreciated less, but overall it was about 20%. That was last year.
I was going to say, I know a neighbor's house, it went up almost 35%. It was just like, it was nuts.
It is, and it's bad, because what happens, it's pricing out future generations from being able to afford a house. And unfortunately, we haven't kept up with building new homes. If you look at historical home supply, what you'll see is, if you look at it by decade, you'll see that between 2010 and 2020, we built about half of the homes on annual basis per million people than we have in the previous decades. And we have a supply shortage. People are aging in place. One of the things I think we'll see is that, younger boomers who have seen their parents pass away as a result of COVID in assisted living facilities, they will, by themselves, because they weren't allowed to visit. They will think to themselves, I don't want that to happen. I either want to stay in my house, or I want to live with my kids in a multi-generational home, but I definitely don't want to move to an assisted living facility. So people are aging in place. People are living longer. So the supply of houses is not keeping up with the demand.
That's nuts. So when we look at 2022, what are we seeing? Are we seeing more of the price increases, at least for the first quarter of the year?
So what we're seeing right now is the rates have gone up, right? The Fed only raised their rates by 25 basis points, but the mortgage originators raised their rates much higher. And that's because of the quantitative tightening, because the Fed won't be buying mortgage-backed securities, right? So mortgage originators are pricing in some of that risk. So as a result, the mortgage rates went up by a lot more. So we're seeing mortgage rates at 5% right now. So it's a lot more expensive for home buyers to on monthly basis. So their payments just went up depending on geography by a lot. If you're thinking about median priced home that was $350,000, for example, now buyers that could afford to pay $350,000, they can only afford to pay $295,000. That's just an example. I looked at Austin the other day, and I want to say that an entry-level home will be $700 more expensive on a monthly basis. So those are just two examples. Mm-hmm. But because we have such a supply shortage, while it did price out some people, there are still enough people who can afford to buy homes at a higher price point, right? And they do anticipate further increases. At the same time, what we're seeing is that it takes much longer for builders to complete homes. So what you see with starts and completions, where it previously took about 12 months, now it's taking 18 months. And they're experiencing labor shortages, they're experiencing supply shortages, everything from, windows to appliances. It's just taking longer to get here.
So, so basically, we're still going to see price increases, but the volume of sales is probably not as high because it priced a number of people out of the market.
I think that the price increases will probably tame. We won't see as many people, we won't see as many bidding wars because fewer people can afford the houses, but I just don't see as high of an appreciation, and I definitely don't see prices falling. We'll probably see an increase in supply, which is a good thing. At this point, seeing less than a month of supply is not healthy, right? Because the second the house is listed on the market, you have 20 bids, 30 bids after just one open house. And this is what we're getting used to. So one of my concerns is if it's on the market for a little bit longer, everybody starts panicking, and thinking that we're tanking. Nobody thinks about historical averages. And we need to think about that. We need to get used to the kind of the new normal, and then and think about the old normal, which is a lot. It's a healthier baseline. Let's just say that. Be able to shop around. You can think that, if I don't put an offer on this house, I'm never going to be able to buy one.
I see. So that said, we're expecting another half-point rate increase by the Fed. What would, basically they're trying to slow down the economy. So what would that mean to, obviously, what percentage of buyers go away if we have another 0.5% increase in Fed rates?
So I think it's an interesting question because the mortgage rates are not directly tied to the Fed rate, right? The mortgage rates are more tied to the 10-year bond. And it also depends on what the mortgage originators perceive and think. And they also price in other risks. And I believe that the Fed is also watching, they're looking at two things, right? They're looking at employment and they are looking at inflation. And unfortunately, the inflation numbers will probably go up for March because, you mentioned the geopolitical risks. And one of the components of the inflation, or two very important components of inflation, are food and energy. They're most volatile components. And, the conflict in Europe very much plays into that because Russia and Ukraine are big suppliers of food and energy. And we will see price increases in oil for sure, and gas. They also together produce about 29% of wheat. So we can expect increases in food. That said, they also look at inflation without these volatile price components. So if we do see inflation controlled without the food and energy, it's a good sign. So I do think that they will be watching. If they do see the economy slowing down, then they will rethink the rate increases. But at this point, we do need to be cognizant of what's going on with inflation for sure. So if they do, if you look at the relationship between the mortgage rates and the interest rates, there is a spread, right? That difference between how much they're raising and what the mortgage rates actually are. And it's not a linear relationship. It doesn't mean that, if they raise by 0.25 percentage point, then the mortgage rate goes up by the 0.25 percentage point. They can raise by 0.25 percentage point and the mortgage rate can remain the same. So it all depends on other risks. It all depends on what's going on with the market, on what the supply is doing and what's going on. Okay,
cool. Hey, look, everybody, you're going to need to stick with us. We're going to be right back with more Polina from Sundae.com. And we're going to pay some bills and we'll see you in just a moment. So stick with us. Cameron, we just finished segment number 1 with Paulina, and we'll be starting with segment number 2 here in just a second. So on the second portion, let's see. So let's talk a little bit about Sundae, okay? The as-is marketplace, the issues that are in the as-is marketplace with the unscrupulous buyers and things like that, and the games that they play. And, if you can run through a few examples, and then at the end, we'll make sure everybody can go to Sundae.com and get connected with you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Examples that some of the buyers,
Like, for example, they have somebody come in and do an appraisal that's not really an appraiser, that type of thing.
okay.
Just the typical thing is if you've got, you have the as-is buyers, they're all over the place now. And the things that people need to look out for, how to protect themselves, what would be the best step in this marketplace to, obviously you can put your house on the market or probably sell pretty quickly, but what's the smart way to get the most out of it, selling your property, whether you do it for as is or not. And then we can kind of walk through your process, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Cameron, we're back in a few seconds here. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. Hey, look, all the replays are available at www.savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful information and insight on Saving with Steve, then I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll never miss a show, and check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, AM/FM radio. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal financial freedom. You can also follow us on Facebook at Saving with Steve Sexton, join the Insiders Club, or just go to savingwithsteve.us to get all your replays, guest gifts, and more. Now we're back here with Polina Ryshakow from Sundae.com. Again, she's the Senior Director of Economics, and she's the lead economist for Sundae.com. Now, one of the things that we're coming into the marketplace is there's still a large number of people who either don't have the money or, are in a position where they just need to sell their house as is, whatever the case may be. What would be the best way for them to go about doing that? How does Sundae.com work? How can it benefit these people who are looking to sell in the marketplace? And how can it benefit the investors who are looking to invest in the marketplace?
So I think one of the things you want to do if you're selling your house, you definitely want more than one offer, right? You want several price points to make sure that you are getting a fair offer for your property. And this is something that Sundae does well, because when we take a look at your property, we order an inspection, and it's an independent inspector who puts together an inspection report. And when we place the property on the marketplace, a lot of investors get their eyes on the property and they place bids. And on average, I believe we get about 10 to 12 bids per property. And the seller will see all of the bids and they will see the spreads. And investors, they have their own secret sauce. So that's the reason why bids will come in at different price points. So one investor might think, oh, I can just put some fresh paint in and maybe put in a renter. Or another investor will think, I will put in a new kitchen, add a bathroom, and resell it at a much higher price point. So they will offer a little bit more. Another investor will look at the property and think, oh, I can put in an ADU and resell it to somebody who will want to move their parents into the second into that ADU, and they will think that the property will sell much higher. So this is the reason why all of them will give different bids and different offers. And I would say to anyone who's looking to sell and doesn't have the money to make their house presentable or marketable, to put it on the MLS, that they definitely need to shop around or call a few people. And when they do, there are some behaviors that you want to look out for. You definitely don't want somebody who comes in to pressure you. If they start saying, oh, the interest rates just went up, there are fewer buyers in the market for your property, the prices are falling. Anything that sounds a little bit fishy, you definitely want to call somebody else. Don't give in to any of the tactics. Some of the behaviors we've seen in this space, or what we heard from some of the sellers, is some of the offers will come in too high, and then the buyer will try to walk the offer down when they go through the property and they find something that needs to be repaired. Or they will bring in a friend who is a contractor, and they will put an unreasonable estimate on what it would take to fix something up. Or they will come up with some kind of weird valuation for the home and bring in comparables that don't look like your property, or they're far away, or things like that. So definitely watch out for behaviors like this, and definitely get more than one offer.
So what you're saying is you have somebody come into the house and they offer you a high offer, and the way they walk it back is they will walk the property with you and start pointing out little things and saying, hey, we need to reduce this offer because I didn't know that. Or they will bring in somebody that is a contractor and it's their buddy, and that contractor will say, in order to fix this, you're going to, and basically that contractor is also selling you on the higher cost, so you lower your price. Do people bring in their own appraisers and say, hey, this is what the appraiser's for, even though the person might not be an appraiser?
We haven't seen that happen because that's actually illegal.
Okay.
Appraisers need to be independent. Usually appraisers are hired by lenders and through appraisal management companies. So if somebody does that, you need to know that that's definitely fishy and illegal, and you don't want to deal with that person. So they can bring their own valuation or their own comparative market analysis, their own CMA, where they pull their own comparables, or an automatic valuation. But if they claim that somebody is a certified appraiser or licensed appraiser that they brought in, then no, you don't want to be dealing with that person, because they shouldn't be doing that. They can't do that.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure. So once Sundae brings in an appraiser, they appraise somebody's home, and then it goes up on the marketplace. So all the investors have an opportunity to see that appraisal. Is that right?
So Sundae sends a market expert, and market experts are usually trained to, they pull comparables the day ahead. So all of our market experts, they know the market. They either have a background, either they were appraising before, or they were real estate agents, or they were investors in the past. So they can pull their own comparables. They also can walk through the property, take photos, and budget for all of the items that they see that need to be repaired. So they will put together a budget, they will put together an estimate, and they will give you a range that they think that the property can sell for. They won't give you a price.
Okay.
So they will set expectations, and they will say, we think the offers will come in within this range. And then within a week, or sometimes we'll see someone say, look, this is what I want for my property, and I want the cash offer tomorrow. They have a certain urgency because of circumstances. And in that case, we will do something special for them if we are confident. There is a confidence interval in as well. But the usual practice is we will then market this property on the marketplace, and we'll have offers come in, because we'll also have an inspection on the property, a professional inspection done on the property. And that's what investors see. They see all the pictures. They see the professional inspection done by a certified inspector, and they place bids. And that's what we present to the home seller.
Okay. Okay. And then basically, if a buyer says, an investor says, hey, I'm the top one, the person who's selling it says, okay, great, we're going to go with this top one. What happens next?
We go under contract, and we get paid by the investor. So investor pays us a percentage of what they're paying for the property. Mm-hmm. And the property sells. If they back out, there is another investor who bid on the property, and then we go with the second
Okay, so can people who own the home that are looking to sell it, can they work out their own terms for how long they can stay in the house and things like that before they have to move out? Or is it something they have to move out quickly?
Usually they can stay 30 or 60 days. It depends on the circumstance. Some people, they want to move quicker. There is an urgency. People come to us for different reasons, right? We look at our sellers. There are sellers who want to move because they want to retire. There are sellers, and that also varies very much by market. What you see, the reasons why people are selling in California are very different from the reasons why people are selling in South Carolina, right? What we're seeing in South Carolina is inflation is really impacting sellers who need to sell because they're seeing the price of food going up, right? Or even upkeeping their house when they need to pay a lot more for gardener, right? Or maintenance of their house, and they're living in Social Security. So they're either moving in with family or
Mhm.
their kids. We're seeing a lot more of that in that region versus in California, where people are moving for retirement in kind of the um, tax-free states, or like who are kind of chasing their kids as well.
Mhm.
Kids move to places like Austin or Nashville or Salt Lake, and the parents want to be closer to their children and grandchildren when they retire as well. So people sell for different reasons. We see some people who come to us because of divorce, death of a loved one, and they have different schedules. So yes, we will work with sellers, and investors that understand the terms as well when they bid on the.
That's wonderful. Okay, so here's the big question. How do people get a hold of Sundae.com? Do they just go to the website? Is there a phone number they can call if they're looking to sell their house as is? How does that work?
Yeah, they can just go to the website, Sundae.com, and there's a phone number. There's also, um, yeah, they can find us there.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Hey, Polina, I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been wonderful. Gives our listeners a wonderful understanding of what's going on, what they could do, and what they're looking forward to in the next year if they're looking to sell their home or just understand the appreciation of the real estate. Again, I want to thank Polina Ryshakow, the Senior Director of Economic Research, lead economist for Sundae.com, for joining us. And if you're thinking about selling your house, it makes sense to go to Sundae.com. So Polina, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you the next time, and enjoy your week.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. Have a good one.
You too. Hey, everybody, I want to thank you for joining us today. Next week, it's time to unpack those bags, the bucket list dream vacation. We have Sophia Mendel from Value Penguin who's going to talk about all those wonderful things you can do to reduce and eliminate costs and go on that dream vacation. So, hey, look forward to seeing you next week, this time, this place here on Saving with Steve. Thank you. Have a great week. Bye-bye.